In this tutorial, we're going to extend what we've done in our previous tutorial and add hordes of zombies into our dual-stick shooter. Now, if you remember what we did last time, we created this zombie class, and it inherited from GameObject. And if you looked inside the update, we tried to code up an artificial intelligence, and it really wasn't very good. If you remember, what we did is compared the zombies' X position with the heroes' X position, and if it was less, then essentially we moved right by just a little bit. We then modified that down here by allowing the zombie to rotate towards the player and then to charge directly at the player. So what we're going to do this time is to create another kind of zombie to have a little bit of variety in our game. And right here you can see that we're going to reuse this code. It's not the best code in the world, but we'll still be able to use that just to show how these zombies are behaving differently. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'll come over here and add a new file, and we'll call this one the poison zombie. Okay, so the first thing that we'll want to do is to inherit from zombie, and we'll come over and grab the using statements that we had before and paste them at the top. Okay, in fact what I'm going to do is come back over here to zombie and grab all of this stuff, the constructor essentially, and replace it because most of it's going to be the same. We still need all of this information to pass to zombie, which then passes that off to the GameObjects constructor. Okay, where it gets a little bit more interesting is when we get into public override void update. And this should take in gamepad data. Gamepad data, which we'll call gamepad data. Okay, now on the inside what we're going to do is grab this code from zombie that we commented out last time, and I'll paste it into the update method. Now we have to be a little bit careful because we have to make a decision. If I were to say base.update and pass it the gamepad data, let's assume that I'm going to call base.update, which is the update of the zombie method. The problem's going to be that it's still going to run this code. But essentially what I need to have happen is the GameObjects update. So you can see that right here. This is where I update the rotation and the position of the sprite. So I think for simplicity, what I'm going to try to do is to just say sprite.rotation gets rot and sprite.position gets pause. Now we could try to do some clever things like base.base, but notice that doesn't really work so well, so we'll skip that for now. Okay, so end result is that we now have a poison zombie that we can mess around with. So let's come back over here to app main. And if you look at the top of this, you can see here in line 16 that we have this generic list of zombies. And what we'll do now is to create a list of poison zombies. Call it the P zombies or something like that. Doesn't really matter. So now we have a zombie list. And dropping down here into initialize, we're going to do essentially the same thing that you see here. We're just going to do it for the poison zombie list. So to begin with, I'll say P zombies gets a new list of poison zombies. And we'll keep going and say texture 2D. We'll call this one the P text, gets a new texture 2D, and say application assets, and we'll load zombie2.png. And just to let you know what that looks like, I can come over here and click on zombie 2, and it's a green zombie. Essentially, I just painted it green, so it is indeed poisonous. Okay? So the next thing that we'll do is to create a couple of these guys. So I starts out at 0, so long as I is less than 5, I++. And then on the inside, actually what I'm going to do is grab this line of code, because I'm lazy, and paste it, and I'm going to reuse that pause. And we'll do the same thing afterwards, bring a poison zombie to life. We'll call this one temp P or something like that, gets a new poison zombie, passing it graphics, ptext, pause, vel, and this. Finally, what we'll do is we'll add that to the pzombies list. So pzombies.add temp p. And the end result is that we now have a list of poison zombies that we haven't updated, we haven't rendered, we haven't done any of that stuff. So let's come down here to update, and we'll fix that problem. We'll say for each poison zombie, p in the pzombies list, let's tell all of those zombies to update. We'll say p.update and pass it the gamepad data. And actually, if you look right here, let's be a little bit clever. I'll say poison zombie z and z.update, and then I can reuse this code right here. Okay, now before you try to get efficient and say, hey, can't we just combine all of this stuff into one loop, realize that the poison zombie loop and the zombie loop are separate, and you really can't loop through those currently the way that it is as one giant loop. Now we're going to change that. What I'm essentially trying to do is to set this up for a topic called polymorphism, where we are going to dump everything into one list, but for now we're going to keep everything separate. Okay, so we now have it where we're marking the zombies as being dead. Let's come down here and actually clean up the dead zombies. So I'll say for int I gets pzombies.count -1. So long as I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. And again, we have to do this in reverse order. We can't use a for each loop. It's not allowed. Okay, so we'll say poison zombie temp zombie gets poison, let's see, p zombies of I. And then we'll do the same thing. If not temp zombie is alive, then we know that we need to remove that zombie from the list. So I'll say temp zombie, p zombies dot remove and pass it the temp zombie. Okay, so at this point we now have collision detection and we're cleaning up any dead zombies inside of our update here. The last thing that we need to do is very similar to what we did previously, and that's to render out all of the poison zombies. So I'll say for each poison zombie p in the p zombies list, then we will tell p to render. Now, is it going to compile? Not quite sure, but let's see. Okay, looks like it's running. Now, notice that the green zombies are not facing the character, but the normal zombies are, and that's because we overrode that. Also notice the way that the poison zombies are moving around the screen. The normal zombies move in this kind of nice fashion. You can see that they rotate exactly towards it, and then as I move around, you can see the different behavior there, especially these green zombies. So hopefully you see what I'm talking about now, that we can get these different behaviors across these different zombies, and maybe what I'll do between now and the next tutorial is to create a third zombie class, maybe a teleporting zombie or something like that, and that way we'll have a whole robust set of zombies that we can choose from. So that's it for now, and hopefully you now see how to create separate lists of zombies.